Okay, thanks, Paul. Good morning. Yeah, so I'm one of the exec directors of Odesma. My other two co-founders, Steve Traynor, is there, and Ed Cross, were here all day. So if there's any difficult questions, I'll defer out to them as well. I feel a bit, I don't know about you, I sort of sat through those presentations in the panel this morning, and it was, it was a really good discussion. And I thought, having been a previous CPO, I thought, my goodness, that agenda looks pretty tricky. And then I thought, my God, my presentation looks boring. I don't mention Uber here, I don't mention Airbnb. And I feel, so hopefully he won't find it too boring. But what I want to talk about is how we're seeing the market changing in terms of the delivery model, but also put that into a more realistic situation, talking about the case study that we've just completed a project with Aggreko, and I'm going to spend most of the morning talking about that case study. Somebody from Aggreko was actually going to be here, but she's stuck in Dubai, so apologies for that. It was going to be a joint presentation. So I'm going to focus more on the client case study and how we've delivered procurement transformation fast and on a very flexible delivery model, which is what it's all about, really. So I'm going to go into that, and it's all around the theme of agility, flexibility, and responsiveness, which hopefully that will come through as I go through the case study. So talking about new models for procurement, what we're seeing in the market, how we're responding to that, why we set up the company, and it's about harnessing the people, technology and processes for a successful procurement transformation. So this is obviously a real life delivery model. The reason the case study is in orange is because that's the Aggreko colours, which I'll come on to. And then any questions and answers at the end as well. This is a client slide. So one of our clients is Brambles, CHEP, people who deliver pallets, rent out pallets all around the world, refurbish pallets all around the world. That's why it's in CHEP blue. So the viewpoint that I've used pinched from them is really about what is the purpose of the global procurement team? And in essence, what they're saying is that we're really around for three reasons. One is to deliver value, whether that be in savings or innovation. Secondly, it needs to be delivered at the lowest cost, which I'll come on to in terms of the delivery model. How much is the procurement organisation costing the organisation, and also to manage risk, ethical and non-compliant behaviour. So our view is obviously any procurement transformation strategy needs to be driven by the business strategy. That's what we're saying here, and that's certainly what Brambles are working with, and that's what we've been working with on them. And then from that obviously drives the procurement strategy behind that. But a procurement transformation programme, such as the ones that we're managing at Brambles and the ones at Aggreko, have been much driven by the business needs. And this is what we're seeing in terms of the various models that you can have to deliver a procurement strategy or procurement transformation, the models for the organisation. It's quite a complicated slide, so apologies, and you might not be able to see it at the back. But basically, it's about the effectiveness of the delivery of the procurement organisation versus the cost of it in terms of efficiency. So here you have obviously on this axis here, you've got a procurement organisation that's probably 3.5%, sometimes 5% the cost of that organisation of the spend, going right up to the high end of performance, which is the best practice or best in class. I shouldn't use that after Christoph's his presentation, but talking between 0.5% and 0.75% of spend in terms of best practice. But then, wherever you are on that axis, you've also got to deliver the cost reduction agenda as well. So what we've seen is typically that can vary from 2 to 3% of the spend in terms of annual savings performance, right up to greater than 13% or in the middle teens. So we've sort of, I think we did this when we were after a couple of beers one night, but we sort of tried to define the 4 different types of procurement organisation, whether it be a white elephant, a rowing boat, a Cheshire cat, or something called graphene, which Ed tells me is a very, what is it?
It's a super material.
It's a super material.
As technology is moving on, graphene is a product that is changing the boundaries for manufacturing and for products.
Okay,
It's super strong.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm not an engineer either.
No. So on that top right-hand corner, which is I think what the theme is and what we're talking about in terms of the agenda for today, it's all about agility, it's all about flexibility, it's having a procurement organisation, a procurement team that can be flexible with that business strategy, which in the discussions this morning we've seen is changing rapidly on an annual basis. Does that resonate with people in the room in terms of the potential for different types of organisations? I mean, we can get into discussion about it either here or later in the day or over dinner, but we try to summarise the sort of 4 different types of organisations. So on the right-hand side, there's different ways of delivering that. Depending on where you want to be on that axis, there's different ways of delivering that. Either from the stakeholders managing procurement mostly themselves, and there's some organisations that are still, the FTSE 250, still having 80% of their spend managed by the stakeholders. A full in-house procurement model, which can be quite expensive, but obviously you maintain control. You have your arms around all of the activities that you're doing. What was very fashionable probably about 10, 15 years ago, and I think there's quite a few ex-consultants in the room, myself included, is where you bring a consultancy company into the organisation. They come in and do it to you, and then they leave. And then you're left with the consequences of that, which I'm sure a lot of us can resonate with. That then moved into more of a procurement outsourcing model, whether you're outsourcing some of the tail spend, or whether you're outsourcing some procurement operation, or whether you're outsourcing some of your category management. And that model is still very viable in the market today. What we're about, and I don't want this to be a big sales pitch for Odesma, but what we think is really important going forward is having this combination of procurement as a service with an in-house organisation and being able to flex the resource, be able to have a team that can change on a regular basis to fit with those business needs. So we've created this concept called the Procurement People Cloud, where you can tap into that expertise, tap into that resource on an ongoing basis, but you don't have to deploy that on a full-time basis. So you're getting the right expertise at the right time in the market or the right time during a time period, and it fits with the longer-term strategy. Now, that expertise can be transformation expertise, or it can be category management, or it can be subject matter expertise. But we've seen a sort of groundswell of interest in the market of organisations saying, well, I don't want to go to a full outsourcing. I want to go to a middle ground, and it's like a different paradigm of having expertise available when you need it, rather than it being full-time in the organisation. By doing that, you're delivering at this end of the scale in terms of cost reduction, if that's or driving value, but at the same time keeping the cost at a very good price point within the organisation and delivering significant return on investment. So I'd be really interested to get reactions either now or later on this in terms of delivering agility and value through a slightly new delivery model, which gives you that performance, enables you to move to that performance if that's what's important to you. I'm not saying it works for every organisation, and it varies from sector to sector, but we're certainly seeing a need for that type of procurement as a service, procurement people cloud type of approach to enable you to drive and be agile. So we decided to set the company up to, we all worked for consulting and outsourcing organisations, and we felt there's a gap in the market that we can help to fill. So we've been running for 2 years, 2 years at the end of November. We'd like to think we're a good management team. We We have access to some of the best talent in the marketplace. As I said, we've developed this concept called the Procurement People Cloud. We will use market-leading, easy-to-use technologies as required by the organisation. So we're not suggesting that one size fits all here. We like to package up the services, the technology, and the people all into one single service that can be very flexible and you can turn on and off on a very short lead time, but building a long-term relationship with the customer or client as well. By doing that, we're delivering returns on investment over 20 to 1 now. On our website, we keep a savings tracker as to how much we're saving for clients and how much we've been doing that for the past 2 years, but delivering that at a price point at less than 1% of the cost of the spend. So it's helping customers to deliver that high-end upper quartile performance. And that's why we set the company up. So these are our customers, and I'm going to talk about Aggreko mainly because Aggreko were in desperate need of delivering procurement transformation, driving value, and delivering savings program in a very short period of time. And as a result of that, they felt that this delivery model, working with us, was the most appropriate way to do it. What they wanted to do was to really to look at their operating model, to address their processes, bring in an engagement with the business stakeholders, which I'll come on to, filling expertise gaps when necessary, not all of the time, and to bring in leading edge infrastructure as well. So the whole idea of delivering transformation in a very short, flexible period of time was to harness these three things together. And all driving the business outcomes that they were needed, which I'll come on to. Has anybody worked with Aggreko or knows Aggreko at all? I'll focus on the case study now. Enormous organisation, as you can see there. 1.6 billion turnover. I think they're about in the top 150 of FTSE. They provide power solutions and rental solutions for temporary situations. So Glastonbury, for example, or a major event that takes place around the world. So they've got a very, very customer-driven supply chain, which has a big impact to the procurement organisation. 2 years ago, they made a public statement that they brought a new CEO in, reorganised the whole of the business from a regional organisation into a horizontal organisation, and as a result of that, they drove out a lot of cost and efficiencies. So they went very public in terms of what they wanted to drive out of their supply base. And they said between processing, cost efficiencies and procurement, they were going to deliver £80 million worth of savings over 2 years. So we were fortunate enough to be selected as their procurement transformation provider with this new delivery model. And we provided category expertise, project management expertise, and technology to drive this program for them. So I'm going to obviously spend the rest of the time now explaining actually what we've done. And we delivered a specific signature action, as we call it, for their freight in North America, which I'm going to come on to as well. So that's Aggreko. Global supply chain, over 100 countries, very complex in terms of the sales and service centres, so quite a complex supply chain. Suffice to say, 18 months ago, they had a procurement organisation that was pretty traditional in the shape of sort of best practice or capability framework. They had regional procurement in place. They had some local procurement, but they didn't have any leverage at all. They weren't really managing their categories on a global basis. So it was a very siloed procurement organisation 18 months ago. So they developed the Procurement Excellence Programme, which we've been managing for them. And really the four main goals of it were to leverage that global reach. Their spend is over $1 billion, $1.1 billion. We could probably accessed over the course of this program about 650 million of that. They had a proliferation of suppliers, as you would imagine, with a very traditional procurement organisation. So over 22,000 suppliers, which they needed to do some rationalisation around. No procurement systems in place. The data was all over the place. They weren't using any sourcing tools or doing any proper category management at all. And their team, as I said, was quite traditional. They were doing a lot of tactical work, working on rebates, working in a very tactical reaction sort of way. So the whole idea of the transformation program from their point of view was to try and really change the game, but they needed to do it very fast because of pressures with the business and the stock market and analysts, etc. I'll obviously go through the results. Suffice to say, it's been a big success, as I wouldn't be standing here now and boasting about it. We entered this project for the SIPS Supply Management Award 2016 with Aggreko's blessing from the CFO and the CEO, and we actually won it, which was good for us and very good for Aggreko. So we've delivered on each of those agenda items and saved them in excess with their existing team of over $80 million in 18 months on negotiated savings, using that flexible, agile delivery model and using best practice technology and putting the governance in place, which I'll come on to. So that's the overview of the programme, and we're very proud of it. It's a shame Aggreko weren't standing here today to explain that as well. That would be even better for us, but we're very proud of the work that's done there. And it's been, we've had good coverage in the procurement press about it for both us and Aggreko as well. We've put in a new operating model for them, and they've now appointed a CPO as a result of the work that's been done over the past 12 months. They're investing in global category management, so they're recruiting global category managers. Previously, we were providing those resources, that expertise, on a flexible and agile basis, and they've put procurement relationship managers in place as well. So they still have kept the regional local teams, put an enhanced team in manufacturing, put procurement heads in the business to build a relationship with the stakeholders, but also invested in global category managers to get that global leverage that I talked about at the start of the case study. Implemented best practice e-sourcing tools. The key with the implementing the e-sourcing tools has been we did it very, very quickly. I think that, what we talked about this morning in terms of procurement systems and technology, in order to deliver that sort of saving in 12 months, you've got to have something that you can really implement very, very quickly and is easy to use. I'm not saying that's right for every organisation, but specifically in this programme, they needed e-sourcing tools that they could use very, very quickly. So we chose the sort of best of breed tools with our providers, with our partners, Market Dojo, and a benefits capture tool called Provalido, which I'll come on to as well. And we also made this a very data-driven category program. So we did a lot of work as well on data analysis. I know it's a little bit old-fashioned to talk about at an agile procurement conference, but a lot of the traction that we got in the early days with a lot of the stakeholders was having data-driven category sourcing. I know it's a bit old-fashioned and a bit passé, but it's still very important. It was very important in this program as well. We introduced the concept of category review boards. Again, a little bit traditional, but it was the only way to really get the clients and the stakeholders and the finance people all on the same page on a very quick basis. So each of the category leads, we had business sponsors for each of the main spend areas. We built a pipeline of savings projects, divided their spend into 8 key categories, had global category managers in for each of those categories, and then they drove the category strategies and the savings programs and the value programs with the business sponsors through category review boards. If we hadn't have done that, we'd have had no governance, we'd have had no structure for the program going forward at all. Now, Aggreko have decided to keep these going forward because they've seen the value out of them. But the whole concept of getting business sponsors and finance and procurement in the room was pretty alien to Aggreko when we started this program. Now it's seen as like one of the key events that need to take place from a commercial viewpoint on a monthly basis as well. So if there's any interest in how we set those up, the examples of those, more than happy to take those offline and talk about them. But it was absolutely key in providing some governance to what we were trying to do. And we introduced technology, again, a very easy tracking technology, because in order to deliver $80 million worth of savings, you've probably got to have a pipeline or a hopper of about 150 million savings projects amount up to 150 million. So to manage that pipeline in a period of 18 months and to get approvals to those savings programs, we had to put quite a formal structured governance process in place. And we did this with a tool called Provalido. There's a lot of benefits tracking tools out there. We decided this was the best for Aggreko, the easiest to use, and it was very finance orientated. But basically, we built a pipeline, we built a whole menu of savings projects, and they then went through a funnel, and they went through the category review boards, and we created each of the savings initiatives as individual projects and drove those through the business over the course of 12 months. Now again, it's been so successful that the company want to keep these going forward in terms of measuring savings. And then we created executive dashboards as well for the key stakeholders, because there was a lot of cynicism at the start around how can procurement even get close to delivering that type of value. So we needed dashboards for each of the key stakeholders and each of the MDs and the business owners, so they could actually see, when we were putting a global initiative in place, what impact that had on their business and on their P&L and their bottom line. And I think that's really, really important. Because a lot of the time, you can put a global category management structure in place, and some of it can just disappear, and you get leakage as well. So having that governance and having those dashboards, creating momentum with the key stakeholders is really, really important. Change management was really key as well. We had a sort of dedicated change management lead on the program, which was led by Ed, which included all aspects of comms, setting up intranets for them, newsletters, communications around the whole of the reporting process, what their role was in the program. We aligned a lot of the senior regional and local procurement people, their KPIs into the full element of the program as well. Put some rigorous program management in place as well, but obviously we needed the subject matter experts to deliver the savings over the time period. But this is very, very important to them. Culturally, they're a very innovative organisation, so having a change management structure was essential to the success within Aggreko. One of the key things we did, I've only got 5 minutes, so I'll go through this pretty quickly, but there was a project that we ran in the US which changed the game for procurement really in their rental business. So we called it a signature project around US freight. In total, Aggreko spent about $120 million on freight. But what we wanted to do was to prove the technology, prove the role that procurement could play within the business, and wanted to try and find a vehicle for that with the stakeholders so that they could start to see some real change going forward. So we decided, we took one of their freight areas of spend, which was in North America, and we thought we'd do something sexy and attractive with it, as sexy and attractive as procurement could be. So we took a proportion of their freight spend in North America. They spend about 60 million. We took their trunking volume in North America and decided to do something quite innovative and agile around it as well. So the way they were buying freight, it was very decentralized, as you would imagine. 64 locations. They wanted to ship a big machine from Denver to Los Angeles. Right at the last minute, they pick up the phone, ring a freight forwarder, and the freight forwarder give them a price, and then they just add that onto the cost of the sale. So we said, you need to really change that, and you need to be really innovative about how you do it. because that spot buying, is just not the way that you should be managing this going forward. You need to really flip the whole situation as well. So there's no standard process for freight quotations, and they didn't do any price benchmarking as well. So, typical scenario, I want a machine tomorrow. Okay, we can get you on. The broker would just be, some of the brokers are actually sitting in the distribution centres of Aggreko, waiting for orders to just fall off the machine. So a pretty suboptimal procurement situation for them. So it's a pretty worst case scenario. But it's what they've been doing for 20, 30 years and been quite successful at doing it. But they needed to do something different to save money. So we put in with them, along with the change management, along with the process changes I talked about earlier, we put together an e-tendering solution for them to tender certain parts of their freight spend. And it was over 24 million of their freight spend. And they'd never run an auction before, never run an e-tender for category work or an auction at all. So again, it was starting to change the mindset within the business over in North America. And we ran a pilot first around in Los Angeles, got all the stakeholders in a room, ran a 3-month tender pilot, and we ran over 250 bids in 3 months. And we saved over 52% of a 3-month spend, which was just over $2 million within 3 months. We got all the MDs in, we got the CFOs in, everybody packed into this program, and then delivered a savings of over 50%. And as a result of that, the procurement agenda within North America and the rental business had changed quite significantly, because it was seen here that procurement and supply chain could really start to deliver something different for the business. Implemented across the whole of North America, and over 12 months, they've centralized their freight team into one operation in Texas, ran over 1,400 bids in 12 months, and saved over $12 million on a $24 million spend. And the impact that that's had on the business is quite fundamental for them, because by running the tool, by doing it a different way, they've now built up the business intelligence and information that they can give to their sales organization to start doing better quotation and running the sales pipeline. So within 12 months, they've moved procurement from a spot buying situation to actually changing the way that they sell in the business in North America. So right at the heart of a piece of transformation for them. They're now rolling it out across the globe. They're now running e-tendering for some of the more larger logistics tenders, because this won't work for everything. It's only work for certain piece of the spend. But now running e-tenders across legal services, starting to look at auctions for fuel. They've centralized their freight desk in North America, centralizing their freight desk across the other regions, and now they're going to look to do the same thing on fuel as well. So it's a real bit of procurement transformation, changing the perception and changing the agenda within the business. So, a very successful program. If anybody wants to talk to Aggreko in a bit more detail about it, they'll be more than happy to do it. They're very proud of it. Obviously, we are as well. Executive level sponsorship was absolutely key. This program was sponsored by Carol Cran, the CFO of the whole group. And we had monthly reviews, bi-monthly reviews sometimes with Carol. Really, really strong executive sponsor and a global leader for the whole of the project as well. Getting the involvement and trust of the stakeholders was absolutely key to try and deliver a savings program over 18 months. Was absolutely key to get that running right at the start of the program as well. Using a structured and standardized sourcing process was really important. Data-driven with some leading-edge procurement tools. But then just providing, I know it sounds a bit old-fashioned, and especially at an event like this, providing really, really good expertise on a very flexible basis that could come in and out, and flex up and down. And that they felt they got the flexibility out of that as well was really important. At the end of the day, it was the people, it was our team that delivered this for them, for them and with them. So it's very much a team type of approach as well. So I'm right on time. I know I started 5 minutes late. So that hopefully gives you a sort of flavour as to what we're seeing in the marketplace in terms of more flexible delivery models, but hopefully seeing it in action with the case study from one of our best customers.
Thank you, Nick. I think we have